Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixie Land. My name is Amy, and I'm an ordained minister. We are in Bible study, and we are in the NIV, and we will be through 2025. In this video, though, we are in Exodus chapter 21, and we are doing all of chapter 21, which takes us to verse 36. So let's jump in. These are the laws you are to set before them. Now, this is God setting out laws, to Moses for the what will become. Right now is what is the Hebrew people, because the children of Israel, Hebrew servants. Verse 2. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. So, okay. So that's a very specific set of rules. So it's a matter of where did you get the wife? But if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and my children and do not want to go free, then the master must take him before the judges, or before God. He shall take him to the door or the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. So they've given you a way of identifying who's choosing, the servitude forever. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as men servants do. If she does not please the master who selected her for himself, or master so that he does not choose her, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. Okay? If he selects her for his son, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. If he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of food, clothing, and marital rights. If he does not provide her with these 3 things, she is to go free without any payment of money. So, okay. And that means she doesn't have to pay him money. I want to make that clear. She doesn't have to pay him money to go free. If he's not giving her any of these things, she's free, is what they're really saying in there. She has to have the right to redeem herself. Personal injuries. Verse 12. Anyone who strikes a man and kills him shall surely be put to death. However, if he does not do it intentionally, but God lets it happen, he is to flee to a place I will design, or I will designate. But if a man schemes and kills another man deliberately, take him away from my altar and put him to death. So very specific. If you kill somebody intentionally, you die. If it's manslaughter, because that's what we would call it in today's world, you can flee to a particular location. Anyone who attacks his father or his mother must be put to death. Okay. Or kills. So they're specific there. They're attacks meaning kills. Okay. Anyone who kidnaps another and either sells him or still has him when he is caught must be put to death. So, kidnapping, always a no. Anyone who curses his mother or father must be put to death. There's probably a lot of people going, uh-oh. If men quarrel and one hits the other with a stone or with his fist, or with the tool, Okay? And he does not die, but is confined to bed. It's confined to bed, so he can't walk anymore. The one who struck the blow will not be held responsible if the other gets up and walks around outside with his staff. However, he must pay the injured man for the loss of his time and see that he is completely healed. So if you've hurt them, now you got to heal them and you got to pay them for their lost wages. 10. If a man beats his male or female slave with a rod, and the slave dies as a direct result, he must be punished. So death. You're not really supposed to be causing other people's death, okay? But he is not to be punished if the slave gets up after a day or two, since the slave is his property. Now, obviously, I'm just reading these things. They're not necessarily things I'm agreeing with. So we'll go through. It's important to go through it all one right after the other. What I think is the most important thing for this right here is understand that the laws we have here are influenced by Christianity, and in Christianity is influenced by the Mosaic Law, which is what this is the foundation of. So our sense of justice does have a certain place, and it was never just if one is the person in charge, you just always get to do whatever you want, and there is no moral structure there. No, there's always been a moral structure there. And these were, at the time, the best rules he could come up with that he could get the people to follow. Because they have to be something they're willing to swallow. Sometimes you take one little tiny step and then you start slowly pushing that way forward. We see that all the time. That's when we have a Supreme Court and all that other good stuff. Let's see. Okay, verse 22. If men who are fighting hit a pregnant woman and she gives birth prematurely, like F, or she has a miscarriage, okay, but there is no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demands and the court allows. Okay? But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. So whatever injuries are done, to very specifically this woman who, you caused to have a miscarriage because the two of you couldn't keep control of your own physical selves. You couldn't keep control of your own tempers that you knocked into other people. If a man hits a manservant or a maidservant in the eye and destroys it, he must let the servant go free to compensate for that eye. That's very specific. I think I'm going to be honest, some of this almost seems like sort of like these are things that he's seen humans do to each other that he said, no, and we're not having any of this either. And that's what it feels like. It's like, here are the 10 commandments. And while we're at it, don't do this and stop doing that. It just feels a little bit like, and when we get in the store, don't touch nothing because you ain't getting nothing. And I'm sure we've all heard that at some point, because I know that I've heard that from other people's moms when with them. So it's not just mine. And if 27, if he knocks out the tooth of a manservant or a maidservant, he must let the servant go free to compensate for the tooth. So if you abuse your servants, you lose your servants, okay? If a bull gores a man or a woman to death, the bull must be stoned to death. And the meat must not be eaten. Ooh. But the owner of the bull will not be held responsible. So, okay, you can't sue the owner of the bull, and the bull must die because it killed an animal. It's sort of like once they get that, taste for blood. And you don't want, because, and remember, especially then. And here we're also talking about soul contagions, not just bacteria. But think of it as like, we had mad cow disease, right? And that was a blood-borne pathogen. And this is a time when we don't really have very good cooking instruments to tell exactly what that temperature inside that meat is. So it's important to, one, not get your blood-borne pathogens from your foods like we know now. Plus, they're worried about contaminating the soul with the desire to kill. Right? Because our desire to kill is something that God is like, where did that come from? Remember, back in Genesis, right? Cain and Abel. He did not expect that. So now he's just trying to come up with what he can think of that's going to keep us from finding the stupid loopholes. And he's listing things that we've done he doesn't like. If, however, the bull has had the habit of goring, and the owner has been warned, but has not kept it penned up, and it kills a man or a woman, the bull must be stoned, and the owner must be put to death. Like, oh yeah? You want to be irresponsible with your animals and think you don't have to be a good owner? Oh, no. However, if payment is demanded of him, he may redeem his life by paying whatever is demanded. Okay? And this law also applies if a bull gores a son or a daughter. If the bull gores a male or female slave, the owner must pay 30 shekels, and then it's got, that is about 12 ounces or 0.3 kilograms of silver to the master of the slave, and the bull must be stoned. So no killer animals. Okay? If a man uncovers a pit or digs one and fails to cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit must pay for the loss. He must pay its owner, and the dead animal will be his. Okay? If a man's bull injures the bull of another and it dies, they are to sell the live one and divide both the money and the dead animal equally. Okay. However, if it was known that the bull had a habit of goring, yet the owner did not keep it penned up, the owner must pay animal for animal, and the dead animal will be his. So, as you can see, we're getting into some very specific sorts of stuff. And what is actually, because in the future, once we start getting into property, laws of justice, Sabbath laws, so what you're really seeing is the start of what we would consider like a Bill of Rights or a constitution, because he's taking them out of this idea of slavery where somebody's telling them what to do and they know the exact rules because someone else told it to them, and that was the rule, with giving them a structure of something that he thinks they can actually understand. Well, he helps them become, really what they are is narcissistic, gaslighting, abuse victims, if you think about it. I mean, incredibly toxic. I mean, it's worse than that, because slavery is so much worse than that. But you have to think about what it takes to do the systematic control of a person and to break them down on the level that they would have having to be broken down for. And then the rebuilding of the person from that place, starting with, here is the structure of laws I expect you to follow all the time. Forget whatever they told you over there. This is the way it is now. Because it's the start. Every country needs rules. As much as we don't like it so much sometimes, every country does need rules. And not every country always, in its inception, had a place where they got any say in any of the rules. Mostly, they were dictated to them exactly like this. And every new ruler could change the rules again for most places. So, until tomorrow, friends.